Well, good morning everybody. It's Friday, October 5th, and I'm in Wrightwood, California. I arrived here on the 3rd, Wednesday afternoon, with another hiker. His name was Bird from Alabama, and he's another southbound hiker. And I met him just as I was finishing the trail at mile 370. Actually, I got off the trail at a place called the Grassy Hollow Visitor Center, which is on the highway about 6 miles from town here. And unfortunately, that visitor center was closed. I thought it was open, but it's only open on the weekends. But at any rate, that's how far I made it. And so from there, I walked a little bit to a place called Inspiration Point, a beautiful site up there, and there's a parking area. And Bird and I stood there for a while trying to get a ride into town, and there was no traffic. Maybe 4 or 5 vehicles came by in half an hour, and of course nobody would pick us up, which was strange. But anyway, so along came this van, 2 guys in it and a dog, and they were geologists. And I asked, as he drove by, he was coming off the road actually that very road where the rattlesnake was, and they were coming down the mountain, and I asked if we could catch a ride, and he says, well, we're not allowed to pick up hitchhikers. They're in a university van. And I said, well, we're not hitchhikers, we're hikers. And they hummed and hawed, and he actually started to drive away, and then he stopped and backed up and picked Bird and I up and got us to town, which was really nice. They broke their rules a bit, but there was no traffic, and so they did us a big favor. And we had a nice chat on the way into town, and these 2 guys, they are geologists. They monitor the San Andreas Fault, which this town, this kind of valley here, sits directly on the fault, which I did not know. And apparently everything's fine so far. They wouldn't commit one way or the other, really, but they monitor it, and that's what they do. That's their job. So had an interesting conversation with those guys, and they dropped us off here. And I found a place to stay. It's called Grand Pine Cabins, which is really kind of a cute place. It's not that cheap, but I've been here 2 nights, and I really like it. Wouldn't mind staying an extra night. In fact, I've kind of trying to negotiate a better price for the 3rd night, because I'm not in a rush to get to Las Vegas. Although, if I do get to Vegas today, then tomorrow I have a plan already. I'm going to go to the Barrett-Jackson auction, which is going on right now. Tomorrow's their last day. So if I get there, who knows, maybe I'll bid on a car. But anyway, that's how I got here, and kind of enjoying the stay. It's a cute. I say cute, but it's a nice little mountain town. And another southbound hiker that I met was just after Cajon Pass. Her name was Marmot, and she's from Hawaii. Just a tiny thing, really. But anyway, she kind of knows Red Feather. Seems like everybody knows Red Feather, and I mentioned Red Feather before. And I don't know if I mentioned it on a video earlier, but I kind of something familiar about Red Feather. And as it turns out, Red Feather from Canmore is none other than Clara Hughes. And if that name doesn't ring a bell, well, she's a 6-time medalist for Canada in the Winter Olympics for speed skating. And also she's competed as a cyclist. So it was kind of cool to meet her. And of course she didn't say who she was, and I didn't recognize her immediately. But when I found out afterward, I thought, well, that's kind of neat to meet someone like that. And we had just a quick, brief conversation, where you're from, that kind of thing. But it was cool to meet someone like that. Basically one of Canada's greatest athletes, certainly in the Olympics. So anyway, here I am. would have been nice to have maybe 2 or 3 more days on the trail just to make the timing work, to get to Vegas to meet my friend, but there's no way to really get off the trail for another 5 or 6 days if I continued. So then I would have had to rush. So that wouldn't have made sense. So as far as everything else goes, well, health-wise, I never did get any blisters on my feet, which was fantastic. Obviously, my shoes were worn in properly. I did have a couple of ankle issues one day in particular where it was a little difficult on my left ankle to climb, but I worked through that. I did get one blister, I should mention, and that was on my right hand, from gripping the trekking pole. But that was it, and the ankle issue. And then, of course, I had plenty of leg scratches from all of the thorny plants. I did, and I wore out 2 pair of socks. So when I got to town here, I had to buy some socks and replace those. The one thing I wanted to mention, though, it was the last night I stayed, where I showed you where my tent was set up. That was probably the best campsite that I have had in the entire trail system, May and this trip. No wind, beautiful evening. The sunrise was far and away the best I've ever seen anywhere. It was just fantastic, and it was a good way to finish off my final evening on the trail. And of course the rattlesnake was another interesting way to finish off the trip. So I was pretty pleased with this trip overall. One of the things that I realized and I like about this way of doing it, I'm much more relaxed, no pressure. I did a couple of days where I hiked over 19 miles. I did not make 20 miles, and I will someday, I guess, but it's not a big deal. As a section hiker, I found that I was able to get to certain places and then stop. It wasn't dictated by having to stop somewhere. I would try and pick places like a campground that might have picnic tables. So if I was finishing my hike at 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon instead of going till 5, that's what I would do. So that's why it seemed like there was a lot of 14-mile days, which I was fine with. Like I said, there's no rush to get anywhere. The other benefit that I noticed at this time of year is that I had no sites at all where I had to share with anybody. I could stop anywhere I wanted. Whereas in May, you had to be careful because it's so busy on the trail at that time of year that you could continue to a tent site and there's only room for 3 or 4 tents and they're already full. So then you have to continue on till you can find some place. So this way that's definitely one of the benefits of doing it this way at this time of year. The water situation is a little bit iffier, although there are a few more water caches than I expected, and I think that's because the trail angels know the southbound people are starting to come through, and in the next month or so, there'll be a lot of them coming south. Well, a fair amount anyway. One of the places in town here it's called Mountain Hardware, and easily the best resupply place I've seen on the trail for camping gear, not necessarily food, but they did have food as well, and so helpful. They allow you to use they have a deck in the back that you can use. You can recharge your phones. They'll hold mail for you. I bought some hiking socks, best price I've ever seen. They're like $50-$60 socks, and I got them for like $25. They're called Darn Tough socks, and I've been thinking of buying a pair, but I wasn't going to pay that much money. But for $25, I will. And it's interesting because those socks, you can actually, if you wear them out and wear a hole in them, they'll replace them for free. So it's probably it's the sock that everybody wears out here. So I was quite happy to go there. It was a pretty cool place, and they have a registry there, and they track the number of hikers that go through every year. There's a lady that just compiles all the information. So you sign in on this logbook, and they will calculate that information. Last year, they had over 2,000 people come through this community. And the year before, I think it was 1,600. And one of the guys I talked to, he's been here since 1996, and that year he says there was like 16 people. So this whole PCT experience has just exploded for people to hike it. It's become so popular. In fact, they're probably going to restrict it even further, because there's just so much environmental impact, primarily from people having to go to the bathroom, and that's starting to, I guess, affect the system a little bit. So anyway, whether I continue along from here or not in future years, I can make that decision. The first night off the trail, I felt like I should be back on it hiking, and that's the way I felt last time I left. But I know that realistically, I can make that decision anytime and come back. So that's what I'll do over the winter. I'll make that decision. But anyway, having said that, I feel pretty good about what I did this last couple of weeks, because I did it on my terms. It would have been nice sometimes to have someone around to BS with, but on the other hand, being alone for a few days with just your own thoughts, it's kind of changes things a little bit. Even if it's only 2 weeks, it does change your thought process a bit. I thought I was a patient person before, but I think I'm even more patient now. We'll see in the future if that's the truth or not. But so that's kind of it. I for now anyway, right? I don't plan on going on any more different hikes than this. Although actually, Daryl, the guy I hiked in May with, has invited me to go hiking in Utah next summer, so we might be doing that. But whether I video that or not, I don't know if I'll do that. So anyway, that's kind of it for now. And if I have some other thoughts that I might want to share with you, well, then watch for another video. But if you don't see one, then that's it for now. And I hope that it's been sort of interesting. I kind of wonder sometimes if it is or not to see or hear what I'm up to. But if it is, great. I appreciate that you're taking the time to watch. And if I do some more in the future, I'll look forward to some feedback so that you can tell me what you might like to hear or see in the future. And before I go, I'm just going to show you a little picture of where I'm at here. These are the cabins behind me, and like I said, kind of a neat place. I like it. The bed is probably the best bed I've slept in a long time. And they got this neat little garden. They're renovating here at the moment, so there's some rooms that are being redone. The room I'm in it's not that big, but it's very comfortable. And they have computer access. They have pretty much everything you need. Wi-Fi is actually pretty good too. So, okay, that's it for now. And look forward to seeing you guys. And if you have any questions when I get back, feel free to ask away.